Senator Johnson and Senator Hassan and Senator Tillis, but we'll just keep going. Senator Johnson, you are next. Senator Cardin will act as chair, and I'll be right back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commissioner, Senator Grassley asked you to meet with Whistleblower Shapley and Ziegler. I don't think he asked for a commitment, so I'll ask you to commit. Will you commit to meeting with those two whistleblowers?
Senator, what I commit to is relying on the Inspector General to run the process to make sure that the rights of those whistleblowers are protected. Okay, so I will consult. I'm not going to jump in front of an Inspector General.
Your answer is no. Last year at this hearing, there were some pretty bizarre things going on. It seemed like a politically motivated, unannounced home visit. We wrote you about that. You claimed Section 6103, which I understand. But since then, we've also seen IRS agents using a fake alias, deceptive tactics to enter someone's home. We've seen an IRS attorney backdating documents. My question, have you investigated these situations? Has anybody been held accountable? I know you ended unannounced home visits by and large, but have you investigated these? Has anybody been held accountable? Anybody disciplined for these bizarre actions?
In any situation where the IRS makes a mistake or acts inappropriately, or an IRS employee, we have to acknowledge it, and we did in the cases that you're describing. We have to then fix the issue, fix the process, train, put in new controls, and then, as you mentioned, take appropriate personnel actions. I've instructed the team in all of these cases to do all of those things.
Good, appreciate that. In your testimony, you said, as the tax system continues to grow, and you obviously mentioned the fact our economy is growing, we have more taxpayers, understand that, but you also mentioned complexity.
Yeah.
Later on, you said the tax system is complex. I've noticed, certainly in the Inflation Reduction Act, the solution wasn't to address complexity, but it was to throw more money at the problem. From my standpoint, I think we could do so much to help solve so many problems if we would address the complexity and try and start simplifying the tax system. So that's my first question is that something the IRS has taken a look at in terms of a project of what would be the best way, what would be the most effective simplifications we could direct toward the tax system? And I'll also ask you, is it more complexity on the individual side versus the business side? I mean, can you give me some sort of split in terms of?
It's definitely more complex on the business side.
So let me just stop you right there. Please. What's interesting about that is, business taxes, C Corps, are about 16% last year of total revenue. But if that's all the complexity, now again, I don't have the numbers of pass-throughs as it relates to the individual, but we don't raise anywhere near amount of revenue, but that's the more complex side. So that's just begging for simplification, right?
Yeah, well, we always advocate where we can for the ability to administer the tax code effectively. And anytime we look at a set of laws and in reality what's going on out there in the economy, we're always going to say, here's where we can administer more easily versus not. Ultimately, it's up to this committee working with Ways and Means and my leadership over at the Treasury Department to decide how to change those laws. But yes, the complexity. It's not just the complexity in the tax laws, but that feeds different types of corporate and large partnership behavior. We're seeing really, really more complicated arrangements, the movement of money across international jurisdictions, movement of subsidiaries, very complicated.
And when I'm talking about all the problems we can solve by simplifying tax code, again, non-economic behavior driven by complex tax system. So again, I'm also interested in the off-the-shelf solutions. Kind of let the entire committee know that. But again, I would really encourage the IRS, with your expertise in terms of what you're having to deal with in terms of complexity, to report back to this committee. Here's the low-hanging fruit. This could really help us out a lot if we could simplify this without really impacting revenue. Okay. Again, I think we do so much in terms of closing the tax gap. Well, part of the tax gap is just complexity, and people avoiding taxes, not necessarily evading them. But again, you make the tax code complex, it's easier. There's a lot more avoidance. So again, Is that something you've done? Is that something you could take a
We
look
do,
at?
we
Is that
typically
something
do it
you
on a
think-
case-by-case basis, like earlier in discussing with Chairman Wyden on the ERC, the law associated with the employee retention credit. The fact that you can still file for an ERC into 2025 when the period of eligibility was between 2020 and 2021, that creates a lot of extra work for the IRS and a lot of extra complexity that drives our costs up. And this is why we need more funding. So yes, we, on a case-by-case, on an inventory basis like you're describing, I think it's a great question. I'll go back and talk to the team about it.
I'd appreciate it, because if you could find the low-hanging fruit that is just completely nonpartisan, say this is so obvious, fix this, I would like to think this committee and this Congress could fix it for you. Thank you.
Senator Hassan's recognized.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Cardin, and I want to thank you and Chair Wyden and Ranking Member Crapo for this hearing. Commissioner, thank you for being here, and thank the people you work with for all their fine work as well. At the IRS, modern IT